Well, unless you've been living under a rock for the last few days, it's now clear that the Texans have now added wide receiver Steffon Diggs. What does this mean for the Indianapolis Colts, and what are the moves going forward to help bolster and to be still contenders in a division where it seems like everyone else is building for a championship and the Colts are pretty content where they are? What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Elijah from Sports Talk Indy, where we cover all things Indianapolis Colts every single day. And it's been a frustrating offseason so far for the Indianapolis Colts and for us Colts fans who just want to see the Colts do something big. We saw flashes of excitement in a team that, like, going into last season, going into the beginning of last season, the Colts win total projection was, I think, 5. I think 5 was the maximum amount of wins they were going to get. They were going to get the only two wins that were like predictable, where they were like, well, maybe they'll split a series with the Texans, right? That was like at best they were going to split the series with the Texans, and at best they were going to split with the Titans. But there was no way that things were going to go the way they went, and yet here we are. The Colts went 9-8. The Colts had a really, really good season, and there were flashes of excitement and explosivity that came out of one of the worst off seasons in history. So, while there is a lot to be disappointed about, there's also a lot to be excited about. So let's look at what the three moves that I think the Colts need to make following the Steffon Diggs trade, where it definitely seems like the Texans got a second round pick, and I don't think this is a big of a deal, and we'll get into that later. But I think this is actually hurts the Texans a little bit, as well as helps them, obviously. So here's what the Texans just set a record. They did something for the first time in history. No team had ever, in an offseason, acquired players that had over 100 catches, over 100 rushing yards, and 10 sacks. And obviously the Texans added Joe Mixon for basically pennies on the dollar. They added Steffon Diggs, who the Bills absorbed 31 or a huge percentage of his contract. I don't remember what the specific numbers were. And then obviously edge rusher Hunter from the Vikings. The Titans added L'Jarius Sneed, Tony Pollard, and Calvin Ridley. I think they overpaid for like for two of those guys. Just needs, I wanted him on the Colts, but obviously looking at it, you're like, oh crap, this guy has a huge history of getting injured. And then the Jags added Eric Armstead, Ronald Darby, Gabe Davis, and Darnell Savage. Two of those guys were on my list of guys the Colts should have gone after. But now let's look at the Colts. What did the Colts do this offseason? They added Roquan Davis, Joe Flacco. They re-signed Julian Blackmon. Again, I cannot stress enough how much I think that's a good deal, and I think that he'll get another extension after this year, because I really think moving him to strong safety was a really good move for the Colts. They re-signed Grover Stewart, and they re-signed Kenny Moore. They extended Michael Pittman and extended Zaire Franklin. So a lot of what they did was add to their own guys. We've covered this ad nauseum for weeks. But when you look at what the other teams in the AFC South are doing, it's kind of discouraging to see the Colts aren't following suit. The Colts aren't doing any of that. So what does this mean for the Indianapolis Colts, and where are the Colts going to go? I don't think the Colts are building for this year. I think the Colts had a serious issue with the culture in the locker room come 2 years ago. Jeff Saturday was brought in to fix the culture. You saw guys gambling on their own team and losing, like they were like gambling against the Colts. Defense was betting against the offense. It was terrible. It was among the worst that we've ever seen the Indianapolis Colts as far as just a culture goes. And the Colts have been, mid for a while. They've not been able to do a lot. And again, it's frustrating to see the Colts have splashes of excitement and then not do anything. But this isn't abnormal for the Indianapolis Colts. And I think the Colts are building towards what they hope to be the next big thing. I think that they're still really excited about Anthony Richardson and still believe in what he's going to bring. I'm hoping that he does come back in and really just has this massive improvement. Guys like Josh Allen, Josh Allen was like 50% completion for the first 2 years of his career. And then he was an all-pro before Steffon Diggs. Now let's get into the Steffon Diggs thing real quick, and then we'll get into what the Colts need to do to help with this current situation of everyone else is building up a team that is going to be really hard to contend with. Steffon Diggs, I think there's an issue there. 3 times last year, the Bills were reported to have locker room troubles, and every single time it followed or was preceded immediately by Steffon Diggs trash talking his team, trash talking Josh Allen, and really trying to like bolster his own reputation, but at the same time at the expense of tearing down others. It wasn't like a team thing. Obviously, you saw everyone has seen the meme of Steffon Diggs staying on the field after the celebrations. He's done it over and over again. It's part of football. Unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs or the New England Patriots pre 2020, like this is just a part of life. Most teams don't get to win the Super Bowl every year. And a lot of players will never get that. But Diggs seems to be the type of guy who thinks very highly of himself, which is, to whatever. But I think that this doesn't help a young Texans culture that is currently building on a team mentality. Steffon Diggs doesn't seem to be a team player. He was like the first year in Buffalo, and then all of a sudden, things just really seem to shift. And maybe that was Buffalo. Maybe that wasn't Steffon Diggs. But it definitely would be something that if I were an NFL GM, I would be a little cautious about signing or bringing this guy in because you want to protect that. I think what Ballard is doing is trying to protect the culture of the Indianapolis Colts because the culture wins championships a lot of times. I would say that it is very hard to win a championship without a team culture. I think Brady did a really good job of this during his dynasty of being able to hold a culture together. So what do the Colts need to do? I think that there are three things that the Colts need to do to get ready for this season. The first one is going to be to continue to sign leaders. I think that the people the Colts are bringing in are culture leaders. I think Justin Simmons is a culture leader. I think Quandre Diggs is a culture leader. But I think there are guys that the Colts are looking at, and they're looking specifically at, are they a good fit culturally? I think that's why the Colts are doing they're doing so many of these top 30 visits, and they're doing so many of these extended dinners and all of this stuff that are going on far past the norm as far as where you normally would meet with a draft pick. I mean, they've taken Xavier Worthy. They've now had, which was pro day. They had him in town for a top 30 visit. They took him to dinner after. And Noah Compton tweeted out the other day, it would be hard for the Colts to top the amount of recon that they've done on Xavier Worthy. And so I think that there's a big deal here in the Indianapolis Colts to continue to sign leaders. So I would say if I were the Indianapolis Colts, I would absolutely go after a guy like Quandre Diggs who has expressed interest. So that'd be my first one. Sign Quandre Diggs. He would then be our free safety. That's the first one. The second one would be find a team with 2 picks inside the top 30. The Arizona Cardinals, the Green Bay Packers. Some teams that have 2 picks inside the top 40. Trade back and be able to get a guy like Xavier Worthy and a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry, like guys that you may not be like the first to the top, but then you're adding multiple positions in the same thing. So that's my second pick, is to trade with a team that has 2 picks that you can easily get in and get in 2 picks in the top 40 if possible, or continue to build for next season as well. So either way, I would trade that pick and be able to get back to, because the guys that they're currently targeting, none of them have been in the top like 20 as far as prospect goes, and I'm excited to see what the cornerback Dijon from Iowa looks like. And the third is going to be to sit and do exactly what you're doing, to sit and to continue to build this team late, and to be able to continue to build a culture and see where Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter and Gus Bradley are, where they're at. Like if this team went from 4 wins to 9 wins, with the only big move coming into the quarterback position that, again, he only played, he didn't even play 5 games. So I think that you're seeing that like a minimal change in just changing the coaching and changing the culture, I think had that big of a deal that the Colts are looking at where they're at. They lost Dallas Flowers for a lot of the year. They lost Juju. They lost Jalen. So I think a lot of these guys, you continue to build them, continue to get a good team of good culture leaders and guys that are excited to play in Indianapolis. I don't think you want to continue to sign guys that are going to continue to bash the organization. You've got good leaders. You've got Anthony Richardson, who has clearly shown that he's a great leader in Indianapolis and in this offense. And I think that that's where the Colts need to go. Continue to do what you're doing. Don't alter the path. If this is the ship that you're tying to, if Chris Ballard is looking at this and saying, this is the direction we need to go, knowing that surely his job is on the line and he's this confident in it, at that point you got to say he's either a genius or he's clinically insane. and I can't. It's hard for me to believe that he's clinically insane, and everyone still trusts him this much. So that'd be my third thing, is to sit and do exactly what you're doing. But yeah, so those are my takes following like the 24 hours of reaction after Steffon Diggs and all of the craziness that was with that. I definitely was like, when I saw the news, I think I dropped my phone. Like I was just like, my heart sunk. Like, what are we gonna do now? This receiving core was already very good, and now we look at it with Steffon Diggs, and yeah, I mean the Texans will have their time. This division has flip flopped more than any other division in football as far as who is the like leader. The Colts will take it for a few years. The Titans will take it for a few years. The Jags will take it for a few years. The Texans will take it for a few years. I think that's just the way this division is. But it doesn't have to be. And if Ballard and company get their way and can figure out and have like seemed to like it seems like they figured something out, and whether or not we know it or whether or not they know it, and maybe Ballard's just insane, and Irsay just doesn't have the ability to fire him yet. But I think that I can't help but to think that it seems like they're onto something, and maybe that there's something going forward. So those are my takes. That's what I got. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're gonna do a giveaway at 1,000 subscribers, so be sure to tune in for that, and we'll see you on the next one.